How do fractional CMOs hit the ground running? Hi, I'm Dean Way. Welcome to Fractional CMOs and the 90-Day Win. There's a lot of variety in how they kick off a new client engagement. In fact, there's so much variety, it's valuable to just listen to what opportunities they look for or what they tackle first or what they wish wasn't true when they start a new project. So let's find out. Hi, Gary.
How you doing?
It's
I'm
Gary.
Gary.
So welcome. Gary, so the whole podcast is based on kind of a premise of we've just started, or you've just started, because I'm not a fractional CMO. You've just started a 1-year engagement with a new client, okay? And so talking about the first 90 days, like what kind of problems do you expect to see, like one or two major problems, or what one or two things do you just go and hunt for because you know there's bad news underneath a rock somewhere and you might as well get it, and you see it over and over in clients? It's like, what one or two problems do you try to like find or tackle first on a new engagement? And tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So thanks for that intro. I'm Gary Frank. I'm a fractional CMO for a brand called 80/20 Interactive. And I've been working with brands from restaurants, entertainment, and the hospitality. And I would say really any type of brand that focuses on a customer first mentality and is under the umbrella of an experiential marketing brand is what I really zoom in on and really help grow their business. It's kind of a little bit about me. As far as the question you have, I find that interesting because when I came in with my experience, I thought, okay, I'm going to really focus on their marketing and use all the strategic learnings. And quite often that was not the reality. The reality is I had to pull back into my learnings from business strategy and help companies figure out how they make money. There's a lot of small to mid-sized brands that before they really should be figuring out how much should I invest in marketing, I need to go through what their P&L looks like, where their sales are coming from, who their customers are and are not,
Right.
what the market is. So I've had to kind of pivot my direction and have kind of altered my agency to focus on fractional CMO plus business strategist. So that has really been a transfer that I've learned through the years of working with several brands.
Yeah, it's like showing up to help your friend paint, and then you realize, oh, I needed rollers, I needed brushes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How much paint do I need?
Yeah.
How much marketing do I need? How do you make money? I don't know.
Hey, so Keith, how about you? Like, what are there any like problems that you normally kind of expect to see at this point, or you just go hunting for in the first 90 days or so? And also let the audience know a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thanks. My name's Keith Hubert. I'm a fractional CMO at Sagum. And Sagum's a marketing agency. We help small e-commerce businesses grow. If they aren't doing ads yet, we will put that infrastructure in place for them. And if they are already running ads, but it's not performing or we can help improve, we figure out what's going on and fix it. And then since nothing in marketing works by itself, we dig into all their emails, their website conversions, basically their whole ecosystem, and optimize as we go. And kind of even back off of Gary. That's something I found too in the first 90 days. Some of the things I thought of first were return on ad spend. Make sure they are running profitably. I know some clients like to run aggressive. Some have no idea what aggressive looks like.
Right.
And so to help them understand, the actual cost, the cost of running their business and how much they can spend in ad spend. I like to personally know what their break-even return on ad spend is, just so they have their warning zone kind of in place for if, they get so they don't just get too crazy with their ad spend, because I have seen that. And another place that I look for too is if they have a low return on ad spend, I look to see what they're doing in their emails and their other marketing channels to make sure it's a holistic view, because I work with a lot of startups, so sometimes they're lacking a lot of different channels and they just have ads, and it's a great way to increase their return on ad spend.
Well then, okay, so those are the problems then, and that might lead us into the next question. So like, what are sort of some of the early wins you like to at least see if you can accomplish in the first 90 days?
Oh, was that me?
That
Sorry.
was you, sir. No worries.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I would say, yeah, the definitely like I look into their email flows
Right.
specifically because um like often a lot of brands just kind of do whatever's in place at the startup level. So like they'll click into Klaviyo and it'll automatically come out whatever it is, or Shopify. And so I like try to help them understand the strategy behind it. Like at what point do they want to start doing like a irresistible offer to hit the customer at the right time and place to convert them, if they haven't converted after, let's say, 7 to 10 days, after already sending abandoned cart emails. And then also, like on the ad side, I like to make sure they're optimizing around conversion, because I have seen brands optimize around video views or likes or engagements,
Right.
which are all good. But at the end of the day, we care more about the revenue that the ads are driving.
Right.
And if you can use that machine learning, yeah, it's a quick way to turn pace on or turn a profit on their ads really quickly.
Gary, how about you? Are there any sort of early wins you like to sort of put on the board while you're doing the strategy and dig into like figuring out whether they know how they're making money in the first place?
Yeah. So we work on their economic model and figure out what their marketing spend should be based
Yep.
on, like Keith mentioned, their ROAS and their profitability. And a lot of it comes to how much risk tolerance the owner has and how much growth they want. But I kind of run a 4-channel check when I start with a brand. And that's first, if they have what I call their product DNA defined and they know what their key symbolics are or have them. And are they often when you work with retail, are they leveraging them in their marketing, or do they just
Mm-hmm.
show up at their product level? So that's kind of this first step. Second step is I do deep customer insights, looking through their social, email, talking to their customers, talking to their frontline staff, talking to the key stakeholders, and learning about their customers as much as I can. After that, we would dive into their what I call digital metrics, email, website. Keith mentioned several of these, and just looking for patterns, looking at using tools like SEMrush to understand their SEO. And then the fourth stage, probably the most important, is again looking at their sales. A lot of brands have several revenue channels. Which ones are the most profitable? Which ones maybe are a waste of time or they're losing money on? That's kind of the premise of my brand 80/20 Interactive, where the philosophy, this gentleman Pareto, some Greek philosopher hundreds of years ago, studied millions of brands and said, yeah, about 20% of what you do, where you spend your money, is driving about 80% of the results. And I apply that to businesses. And, there's a lot of skeptics in marketing. And that's where I find success, is if I can find the 20% and just dominate in this fragmented world of marketing we live in, we see great returns early on their investments.
I saw this. This is off topic, but I don't care because everyone has heard of 80/20. And I watched this lecture where they had all these different kinds of data sets from like all different fields, and like you would never think they were related. And they talked about they weren't proving that like Pareto principle or 80/20 exists. They were proving that it's fractal, which means that if you then, okay, it's 80 and 20. So you throw away the 80 and you look at the 20, you dig into that, it's 80/20 again. You can throw away 80% of that, and 20% represents another 80% of that. And then you can go into that and break off the 80% of that 20%. And it just keeps going down. It's like, what the hell? That was like the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And that's like, I'm sure I'm going to like misrepresent this, but it's like a power law. And right. And what you find is like one tiny, tiny sliver represents like grossly over represents like all of the deaths or all of the births or all of the money earned or all of the purchases made or something, right? It's like, but it's like when they mentioned that, when they talked about how 80/20 is fractal and you can just go down a level into that 20 and then go down a level into that 20. And so it's like, that's the craziest effing thing I've ever seen. Right? That's nuts.
That is funny. I love
apparently
that.
It is.
Yeah, that is wild. That's it gets me thinking, because I've seen it quite a few times, and it makes me kind of to bring that principle back even to the question. What your insight kind of struck me and made me realize that often, brands may think they have to do the 100%, right? And focusing on helping them realize and recognize their 20%. And if they're not doing it, what that 20% is. And I think Gary mentioned, and I forgot to mention this as well, but on the website, what their messaging is, or what is in the front of their marketing. Like if they're not digging into what the customer is, or who the customer is, or why they like their product, often like they're gonna, they may grow, but they won't see the growth they can if they really dig into that emotion.
Yeah, I would say one of the toughest things I've done, whether I was on the client or the agency side, is to this 80-20 philosophy, is have a meeting, and I would recommend everyone try this, and go through and set this meeting. We're not going to add anything to our list. We are going to cross things off that the data says or the sales say do not matter or have very little impact. And we're going to have a cross off the list meeting. And I have a term called the parking lot. And we're going to put it in the parking lot. And we're not going to focus on this. And try to have, if it's a client you're working with, do this. And you would think it would be very easy to take things off your list. It was probably the most challenging meeting I ever had when I was leading a brand or on the client side.
Well, I mean, I'm a copywriter. I make a lot of my money based on the psychology that people really hate losing or giving up anything, even if it's worthless. So I can't really complain. I'm just saying I'm with you in the whole thing. I get it. Okay, so Gary, let's talk about this then. Okay, you show up, and it's always true. You find out, not necessarily because you're a fractional CMO, but really just because you're an outsider. A lot of the times, like you find out that people have accepted something that's normal and it shouldn't be. Like they don't see something about their business that like you can see, or they don't know something about their business until you start working with them. Like, what's an example of that?
I would say that's common with the leadership team, and it depends on the scale of the brand. There's a really, really big automotive brand I worked on, and my job was to help with the content strategy. And they were such a large brand. They had so much fragmentation within their organization that they didn't know all the content that I brought back to them even existed. And some of it was very innovative test labs that they had around the country. And, I think when you're on the brand side and with a big company, you're really focused on your area of expertise. What you miss is the holistic content or brand that the customer is seeing. So, like I said, I think it's probably even more relevant in the bigger the brand gets. Smaller brands, usually you have a very entrepreneurial leader who's highly involved in every step. And often the biggest thing they need to do is empower and trust people and get out of the way. But this is their baby, and that's can be a very challenging thing for a lot of founder, owner, CEOs.
Keith, what do you think? I mean, very data driven on your part, right? So like there's lots of analytics to look at, and like sometimes you just don't even see stuff because there's so many numbers.
Yeah, often too, these founders that I work with, they're so busy at the ground level trying to just maybe get the operations going. They may not be able to tell you, how much traffic or even what their website conversion rate is or any of this. And so, first, I like to help them realize like their weak points, right? Like, hey, like this is where you're vulnerable and this is the opportunity that you have here. And sometimes that means discussing like what your team's like for example, your email could be underperforming. And that's, you have someone over that, but they may not be doing a good job. I normally start by trying to coach that person. And if they're coachable, and if they're not coachable, having that tough conversation, hey, we need to maybe find someone that could replace this person, or we need to find someone that can, do a better job, because this is the opportunity here. And I normally like to throw some figures because that helps things move a little bit faster.
Right.
But yeah, that's I guess how I address that.
Okay. So one of my favorite questions to ask you is, So what should most of the audience do, like CEOs, right? They're probably hiring their first ever fractional executive or first ever fractional marketing executive. Like what? You basically, I want you to tell on yourself or tell on your fellow fractional CEOs. Right? How do they squeeze every last penny of maximum value in that year that they've agreed to have that fractional CMO on board? Yeah. Or if you like it in the other direction, how do companies typically waste the money that they spend?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think it ties in with my last one too, is the personnel. Like I've had companies bring me on and,
Right.
They expect me to do most of the work. And, that I can, and I am always willing to help, especially at the ground levels. They sometimes need it. But often if they have people and I can help guide them and instruct them and put them in the right direction and teach them, it's a principle I love. It's called PDCA. So it's like plan, do, check, adjust. And it's from operations, but I love it in marketing because I love testing until I can, till my, I don't know, just till I get sick of it, which never happens. And one of the things that I've realized though is some of these brands, they just don't have the personnel. But if they had, like, let's say one good guy in their operation, how much more we could do and how much faster we could grow. And I would say that's probably where I think people could get the most value, is ironically hiring, potentially two people, one fractional and then one standard employee.
What about you, Gary? How does someone get maximum value out of a fractional CMO? Let's say they know they're going to have them for a year. Eventually, they're going to hire someone full time. But in like that 1 year, like how do you get maximum points out of that fractional CMO?
I'll speak at both ends because I like addressing how you waste the most money is try and do everything well, right? Because nobody does everything well. And I'll even point to a little brand called Apple. Apple.
Never heard of them.
They do pretty well, and they focus on product and branding. They don't discount. They don't have loyalty programs. They have the best, most innovative products in the marketplace. They know their customers, and they have phenomenal branding. And they leave some other stuff behind. So that's how you waste money, is focus on everything, because you will not do everything well. I don't know anyone who does. The best way I find is to make sure when you bring on a fractional that you're willing to be transparent and share sales data, any insights you have. Clearly define what is success, what are the goals you're looking for, and are these goals realistic? A lot of entrepreneurs have big dreams, and I love dreamers and I love innovators, but I also can back into a number and look at past performances of social and email and web and SEO and get what's feasible in growth for your first year, third year, fifth year, and how much you're willing to invest. How many resources do you have? So really being realistic and working as a partner. I've, through my career, never, even whether we hire a big agency or independents, everybody was a partner. And I found once you see someone as a partner, you treat them differently. You're in it both together, and you will get the best results versus seeing them as a consultant. And I would never be a consultant. I'd always want to be I would never consult for a company. I want to be a partner. I want to be ingrained. I'm going to go too deep to just be a consultant into your business. So that's, I think, some of the keys.
Gary, consulting's great. You're never on the hook for anything. It's fantastic. Amazing. Okay, Gary, then let's try this then. I think this might be our last question on this one. So at some point, this engagement's going to end. All of us talk to more prospects than we have clients, right? That's the nature of it. Not everyone is going to be a client. Like when you're talking to a company, like what are the green flags or red flags? Like what are the red flags that like this company should not be hiring a fractional CMO yet, or this company is not ready in its growth stage, not ready culturally, right? There's just like, what are the red flags that this prospect should not be hiring a fractional CMO, or I should not go and join these guys for the next year?
A couple of red flags, and I'll go to green flags. I like to take both sides of it. Is the red flags when I do an evaluation on the P&L or the economic model, I've told some of my clients, not only do you not need a fractional CMO, your business does not have a model where it's going to make any money. And we need to really think of how to pivot or add different channels to earn revenue. I had a client who was an entrepreneur of 3 different brands, and one of his brands, every way I penciled it out, was not going to produce profit. That's a problem. The other red flag that I've noticed reoccurring in small to medium businesses, a lot of leaderships like to pivot and make a lot of right turns a lot.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in my career is the best marketing, and if you think about branding in essence, takes rhythm and momentum. And if you're not willing to wait 30 days, and like 30 days isn't even enough, but a lot of people like, I need results in 30 days or 60 days. Like, you will not be successful if you make a lot of right turns and do not build momentum. On the flip side, my most successful experiences are brands that, okay, here's the foundation, let's build it out. It's going to require this. Here's how we get from point A to point B. Here's realistic goals, but you got to be committed and have the resources, the financial. There's been times I've wanted to do different channels or paid advertising, and I will say to them, you don't have the budget. You're pissing in the wind over here. Let's focus and keep dominating this until we can get enough revenue to really make a difference and not just dabble. Dabbling does not work. There's so much fragmentation. You got to dominate something.
Yeah. A lot of my clients are fractional CMOs, and sometimes, often I'll be pulled through to work for their clients. But when the fractional CMO, him or herself is the client, like, they'll often ask me, because I like right at the top of the funnel and kind of stuff, like, what should I focus on? Should I be doing social media? Should I be doing video? Should I be doing ads? Should I be doing this or that? And I say, the thing is, you can't know ahead of time which one of those is going to work out for you, but doing all of them will definitely not work out for you.
Yeah.
So
you might as well
just pick one. I say, like, maybe have a primary, and then to a much lesser extent, a secondary, and put everything you've got into that. If you want to do blogging, then just blog, right? If you want to share and have a social media presence, do that. But don't try to do more than even 2 things. And even then, probably just one thing, because, all you're doing is dissipating all of your efforts, and nothing is going to move the needle.
Yeah. The only thing, let me just tag on and I'll let you guys move on, was digital is not a strategy. What I have found is content, and if you develop great content, and it can take many forms, works amazing. Great content works amazing across a lot of channels. And so there's a mistake of, I need to do SEO, and it's what I find is, if I can do great content that people care about and engage with, it's pretty easy to figure out how to turn that into organic social or paid advertising. But without great content, the media itself is not a strategy.
No, I agree. How about you, Keith?
Yeah, agree as well with everything said. It's a couple books I love reading. So a couple books come to my mind is, and I use this to evaluate red flags, is kind of to talk about what Gary was mentioning, that momentum is brands that make a lot of changes, whether it be, changing a whole different direction, is like rebranding every couple months, or it's something as, trying out different products, or some founders, having multiple businesses can, lose that momentum because, they don't have a focus. And I feel like a focus to even what you kind of were saying, Dean, about, like even one thing, another book I love, it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Yep.
He just pretty much says there's one thing you can do well. And I've seen so many brands, they have one product that's killing it and it's making 80% of their sales. And yet they're trying to design something over here that's going to attack this whole other market that they just have the dreams to grow their whole business. Just with my experience, if you can focus on that one thing, you can capture more revenue than you ever get by all these side projects that aren't really focused on your one thing. And so when I do work with brands, I make sure they stay focused. They don't try to go after, I like to say it's, good marketers shoot with a rifle, bad marketers shoot with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And, you can't hit everything all the time. And so, those are the red flags I look for, is a lack of focus. And then on top of that, product with a unique selling proposition, because there's a lot of products that are just Me Too products.
Yep.
And they're not it's going to be harder to capture a market without any differentiating value.
There's I think it's what you just said reminds me of two different quotes on two different subjects from the same guy, which is Seth Godin. And he was talking about sort of Me Too products, and you end up being evaluated on price because it's a Me Too product. So he says the problem with the race to the bottom is you might win, or worse, you might come in second. Then you can't even say you're the cheapest.
Yeah.
Right. And the other one was when to stop running an ad. And he says, you don't stop running an ad because you get tired of it, or because your team gets tired of it, or because your mom gets tired of it. You run an ad as long as your accountant isn't tired of the money it's earning. When your accountant tells you this ad has run its course, but that's the only person that matters. You keep running it if it's performing, even if you're completely sick of it.
Yeah.
You're tired of people at the car wash or the convenience store, oh, hey, the guy with the chicken suit. Like, you're going to be the guy in the chicken suit as long as that makes money. Suck it up and do it. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of this. Okay. So what we like to do at the end of this is, of course, everyone's had their, I think, URL on screen all along. That's not necessarily the answer to the question I'm going to ask. So, Keith, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Gary. Keith, how should people get in touch with you, and who should get in touch with you?
Yeah. So, if you're on LinkedIn, you can reach out through LinkedIn always. You can also reach out keith@sagum.org. I know it's confusing with the .com, but
sure,
that's also a great way to reach me. But there's also a form on our website where you can easily submit to get
who should do that?
Yeah. So generally we like to talk with, if you're a smaller business, the founder, because whoever's going to be making the decisions, or if you're a larger company, the director, whoever's over marketing currently that is looking for the extra help to reach out to us.
And Gary, who should contact you and how should they do it?
So if you are what I consider experiential versus transactional business, looking to create great interactive marketing experiences for your customers, I usually work with businesses more in the medium to large scale size, and they're definitely consumer-facing brands is the ideal clientele. And the best way they can reach me is either ping me on LinkedIn at Gary Frank, and you'll see 80/20 Interactive, or you can go to my website, which is 8020interactive.com, and fill out a form. But the quickest response will be to let's connect on LinkedIn and get to learn about each other's business and figure out where the opportunities are.
All right. And so thanks very much, guys. This was really great. Free-willed a bit, and that's always fun. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. I'm Dean Way. Bye-bye.